We do have 35 minutes. I'm trying to let your classmates arrive, and hopefully everybody went and used the restroom after the test because the test was very long. But just making sure for our friends at home, we are getting into germy season. So if you're sick, stay home. We love you, but we don't want your germs here. We will. No, okay, I'm gonna skip that for now. If you stay home because you're sick or you have an appointment or something else, you know that my class is always uploaded, and I think it takes about a half hour after class is over, probably. I'm not quite sure how long it takes, but it goes straight to YouTube. So once I stop recording, it uploads, and then it's accessible. So my people who are sick at home, I got 2 emails this morning from classmates who were saying, "Hey, I'm sick, I won't be at school." I said, "All right, cool, check my YouTube later." Yeah. Lost and found back there, blue yellow bin. If there's Chromebooks around, please just put those away while we're starting class. Sorry, it's your classmates who didn't take responsibility for their stuff, and this is what happens. And then there's a bin of mice in the hallway. No. I would only have mice if I had a snake. Because, you know, the snake wouldn't eat the mice. I want to make sure that we are heading our homework properly, so if you are like Joey right now and you still have your binder out, you can go ahead and make sure your homework was headed properly or take a moment to fix that header. So at this moment, everybody should have their plain book filled out. Are we good? You should have a piece of paper out for notes, and it could be the same one you used last week. I did not see you guys yesterday, unfortunately. Sorry, it wasn't my fault. I don't know why I'm apologizing, but I missed you. So, you already have 115 notes. We're continuing 115. So either, if you're using the same notes, great, you don't need to rehead it. Or if you're using a new notes page, 115, what's CONT short for? Continued. And it's number patterns. Yeah. For sure in your homework, like when you're putting like number this to number that, be careful. Sometimes you want to write the word out, and it's just more appropriate. But for your notes, you can shorthand however you want to. So you guys got to help me out. Well, please. I guess I shouldn't say you gotta. You could refuse. How far did we make it? I know we did this problem. Did we look at the ninths and learn that pattern? So who can remind us? Actually, I have cards, and you start using these. Big thanks to Mr. Smith. Actually, I might ask another favor. Will you? I didn't quite have enough. You just like fold note cards. Yeah, I have. All right, so I don't think we've really talked. Have we talked about note cards in here? Or not note cards, but your name cards, whatever you want to call it. I have all of you in this deck. This is a deck of 1A. And I will often, so that I don't have to make the choice of who to call on, and I don't just operate on who's raising their hands, because I want to talk with all of you. A teacher that I learned a lot from, Mr. Dove, observed my class one time years ago, and I called on one person 7 times, and other people I called on 0 times. And that was like waking up for me of, holy crap, I'm making a big mistake here. I have some students going through class that never have like the opportunity to check, do they actually know what they're doing? So when I call on you from the cards, you can always pass. There is no like you have to answer. But so let's play this out. So Laviva's card is on the top, and I would call her and say, so Laviva, can you remind me of what the pattern with the ninths are? Now she answered, sweet, her card goes like in a different pile. And I probably will not call on her again today because I just come out of the deck. If she passes, what do you think I do with the card? Stick it back in the deck, not on the bottom, so hopefully I get back to Laviva again to check with her later. Because if she passes right now, I want to check back in with her later to see, like, are you okay? Do you understand stuff? Did you just... And sometimes we just pass because, like, I might, I might pass because I have a headache. I might pass because I didn't read the question yet and I'm a little behind. I might pass because I just don't know. Any of those reasons are fine. So you can always pass. Ava, what's up?
What if you have like a question or like a comment about what someone said?
So that's a great question. This actually makes that easier because now instead of hands being, ooh, I have the answer, if I'm using cards, you don't need to raise your hand for the answer. You should be raising your hand if you have a question or an issue or you need help. So hands up. When I'm using cards, hands up really means like I have something not to answer. So a lot of times we're like, what do you got? And if you're trying to answer, I'm like, well, stop. I'm going to use cards because I got to check in with everybody. Right? Because I can't just let. So in my afternoon class, Christians, that's right where Adrian was, and all of class, he's like wanting to answer questions. I can't call on Christian every single time. Right? That's not fair. I couldn't call on Adrian every single time. So that's why I use cards. So, Labiba, do you remember what the pattern of the ninths were? Perfect example of a pass there. Nora? Yeah, you can check your notes if you have the previous notes out. What did we see? So Nora said the numerator turns into like 0 point whatever that numerator was. So let's write down a couple more examples because I forget if we got to all of these last week. But so write down in your notes. Now we're going to give this a little header for this section. We are talking about repeating decimals. Because we saw that the ninths repeat. Every single occurrence of the ninths except for 9 ninths, because we know any number over itself is 1. So, for example of repeating decimals, Brody, if what Nora said holds true, what is 5 ninths? Sorry, 0.5 what? It's not 5 9. Brendan? 0.555. Yeah, it's just 0.5 repeating. Or we can write it as 0. Put a few of the 5s, and then you can put ... especially if you're typing in a computer. You can't do this. Unless you know how to code math, you can't type a repetend in your keyboard. Some programs have it where you can click it. It's like a special character. But this is just as easy. If you're trying to type math, just use the... Anyone know what this is called? I actually learned I was kind of saying it wrong yesterday. What is the ... Anybody know? It starts with E. Sounds like what you looked at last year in the sky. Jalen? Close. It's an ellipses. This means keep doing what you're doing. So, here, hold on. This is dangerous, though. Using the ellipses can be dangerous because what if I don't repeat? Now, don't write this down yet. You will in just a moment. 1/6 has a really cool thing that happens that actually is similar to what Brendan just tried to do for the ninths. 1/6, and sorry, that's a period. Kind of looks like a comma. Is 0.1 numerator, right? 6, and the 6 repeats. Correct. This doesn't work for 2/6 or 3/6 or 4. It's not a rule that you can keep going, but only the 6 repeats, not the 1. So here, the repetend obviously tells us only the 6 repeats. But what if I use ... out here, and more dangerously, what if I use ... right here? Do you know if it's repeating the 6 or the 1 or both? Or what? Yeah, what do you got? Yeah, people might think it's repeating 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6. That's not what it's doing. If you're going to use the ellipses for something that only repeats a single digit, make sure that you put a few of those and then do the ellipses, or just make your life easy since we're writing and use the repetend. So now, please write that 1/6 is 0.16666. And we're going to show an example of this not working for 2/6. That's also a use for an ellipses. What does it mean in literature when we use an ellipses?
It means that the sentence will continue.
Yeah, this is going to continue somewhere, maybe on another page, maybe in a new paragraph, or maybe just like on the same line a couple spaces away. It's going to continue. So this but 2/6. I'm kind of going rogue of the textbook right now, if you can't tell. I don't even know. I just have stuff I want to teach you guys. I don't always just follow the textbook. Now 2/6. Talk with your group really quick. Can we reduce that and use any smaller numbers to represent that 2/6 fraction? You got to be able to defend why. I'm going to pull a random card. You're looking out for the whole class. 2/6. Where's 2/6? Kevin's got it. Where's your 2/6? Where's our 2/6? Write it down, guys. I shouldn't have to give you a like engraved invitation.
Yes, you can divide by 2.
Ava, your card was actually next, but I know you had it because you were like, yes. What do we do here? I was calling on you. That's the most excited anyone's been in between getting called on.
You can divide 2/6 divided by 2, which equals 1/3.
Please show this on your notes that we're dividing by 2 on top and bottom. Those arrows are the main thing to show. Those arrows tell us we're doing the same thing. Right? Whatever happens on bottom, it's got to happen on top. We divide by 2 to get 1/3. Now, you might have this memorized, what 1/3 is, but if we don't, is there a way to get this to a rule that we know? Like the 9 rules, the 9ths? What do I do? Aiden? I heard you say it. Times 3. So my numerator, and this is 0.3 repeating. So the 1/6 equivalence to decimal only happens for 1/6. The rest of them just have other decimal values. Now they do repeat, but they have other weird values. Now I'm about to blow your mind. And somebody yesterday asked, like, how often are you going to blow our minds? And I said, my goal is every day. You should leave my class every day with this kind of like, oh, wow. Even if I don't like math, at least that was kind of cool. So one more repeating decimal example, then we'll move on to the terminators. I'm not ready to move on to terminators yet. Write down 1/7. Nobody touch a calculator except I have one person with a calculator like at their desk already. Friend, you're going to be our verifier, okay? So when we get to verifying, you're going to be our verifier.
I don't have a calculator.
I have a calculator.
No. The BR, I'm going to have to separate you guys to different sides of the room. Sorry, I was looking at Brody, but I said your name. I thought you're both BR names, you're right beside each other, and honestly, you kind of look similar. I'm sorry. Okay, my whole childhood, fun fact, I am a youngest child, brother, sister, me. Especially when like my mom was frazzled, she would first try to call me Brad, then she'd often try to call me Abby, then sometimes she would throw in the cat's name, Max, before she would eventually find my name, Micah, and by then she would forget what she was trying to tell me. So I've been called the wrong name a lot too. And most of my teachers had my brother, so they would just look at me and call me Brad. My brother is 6 years older than me and has some sweet cars, so if you like cars, chat with me at some point. Now, I have some questions for you guys, because you know what 1/7 is. You don't know that you know it, but you know it. What's 7 times 2? 14. Hold on. What's 7 times 4? Just anybody. What's 7 times 8? But instead of 56, we use 57. That's what repeats. 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. And you think like, well, that's ridiculous. Who is ever going to remember that? Well, times 2 times 4 times 8 plus another extra 1. Now wait, it gets really cool. Write down 2/7. Hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Good, because you're in school. So.
Okay, Mom.
Now, hold up. The only numbers we are allowed to work with here are the 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, and 7. Hold on. You guys got this. You know this. What's the next biggest digit that I have to work with that I could put in the tens place? The 2. Now, hold on. Order has to stay the same. So if I put a 2 here, order's got to stay the same. What's my next number?
4.
What comes after the 2? 8.
8. And then 8.
5, 7, 1, 4. Brody, did that work?
No. You mean braided?
No, Brody.
I'm sorry.
Did it work? Now this, it might have a potentially it might round. Be careful with your calculators. The last number is a lie. The last digit is often rounded, so be careful. Do not trust it. So Brody, it's okay if you were like, is it spitting back out the fraction? The answer might be spitting back out. Oh yeah, 0.285714. Yeah. So what we can also just do is 2, 7. So we can just do the fraction like division. Guys, fractions are division, by the way. If you are not 100% clear on that, to solve a fraction, it is division. You're all good. So grab wherever you're supposed to sit. Or are you in 1A? 1A math? Well, yeah, just grab a seat with your group and you can copy notes if you want, or copy them later. Oh, yeah, so you're joining up with one of the 3s, and this class is kind of crowded, so it's this group or that group. You guys are 3s, right? Or do you have... They're just sick? Yeah, sorry, you're back in the Skies group. No choice. Or, do you guys have a 4th? Are they sick, or do you only have 3?
We had a 4th, but I think there's...
We had a 4th, but my sister was 4th.
But you have a 4th person, right? They're just sick today? Yeah, so you're back with Brody and Sky, Nora. Alright. Predict 3/7 on your paper. 3/7. Using the same strategy we just used for the tens or tenths place. So first we used the 1 because it was the littlest 7. Then we used the 2 because it's the next littlest 7. What's going to be my tenths place? Guys, what's with all the side conversations? I teach 7th grade, not elementary. I made that decision very specifically. I wanted kids to be able to go to the bathroom on their own, tie their own shoes, and have proper classroom behavior. We're lacking on the 3rd. I think the first 2 are happening okay. Fix the 3rd. Okay, I don't want to fix it for you. You're in 7th grade now. Fix it. What's the next digit that I would use for the tens place? Brendan.
4.
The 4, right? That's my next biggest number. Figure out what the next ones are. Remembering the rule I just told you. Write it down. You got it. Isaac, you got it?
I don't get this.
Isaac, what comes after the 4 then?
2.
The 2. Then.
8.
Then.
5.
Then.
7.
Then.
1.
And all of this repeats.
Oh,
What?
Go ahead and do 4/7, 5/7, and 6/7 with your group. We'll join back up together in a second, but do it with your group. It just happens. It's just beautiful.
No, it's not uniform.
Okay, do you want me to review what's happening again? We only have, you're either solving 4, 5, and 6/7, or you're listening. These are the only digits we have to work with. 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. The order the digits happen in stays the same. So wherever I start, I'm going left to right, and then I loop back around to the start if I need to. So if I start with the 2, I go that way. Like 2, 8, 5, 7, loop, 1, 4. If I start with the 4, I'm going 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, loop to the 1.
Oh, wait, but how do you get your first number?
It's the next biggest. So we've used the 1, the 2, and the 4. So do 4/7 with your group. Do 4/7 with your group. Should not be a lot of talking.
Wait, does anybody know that I got this right? Did I get it right?
What's the next biggest digit that I have that can go into 10th place? Everybody.
5.
The 5. So then, the 57, the 14, the 28. And all of it repeats. You gotta have that repetend bar over
Oh
it.
my goodness, Ethan, I'm doing
Isaac, what's my 10th place gonna be for 5? The 7's the next one, right? 7, 1, 4, 2, 8, 5 splits in between the 57. They're kind of weird. Aiden, what's 6, 7's going to be? What's the next biggest digit that I can put in the 10th place? What haven't I used yet? The 8, right? So 0.8. What comes after the 8, Aiden? Keeping the same order.
7.
The 5, then the 7.
The 1, then the 4.
Then the 1, then the 4, and I get the 2.
That's so much more. I was like,
I heard your poo-poo attitude over there saying this doesn't make sense, and I figured we could talk it through. So that makes sense now, kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Now, this, in the 7s, well, take this knowing that you could disprove me. The 7s is the only one of these divisions I'm aware of with a big chunk repeat that works like this, that keeps the same order, that always uses the same digits, and does that little loopy. Like, isn't that cool? Even if you don't like math, you gotta admit that's kind of interesting. Like, you don't have to like it, but it's interesting. Yeah. No, because pi, actually, we can't find any chunks that match. So pi, it's long dividing, but pi is nonsense, and it's not repeating. This is repeating this chunk. It's gonna. So hey, Joey asked a really good question. He said, "Isn't pi kind of like that? Pi does not repeat. These repeat. If you follow the digits of pi, it never creates repetition, and we are millions, not millions." A proper classroom behavior. Thank you. We are millions of digits down the long division, and there's not been a repetition yet. So pi never repeats, and it never stops. The long division keeps going forever. So I envision this guy like in prison, just long divide. So that ... means this nonsense keeps going, and it's not going to repeat. So ... doesn't always mean repeat. It means keep going. Yeah.
Wait, so if we did the 8, would we do 8 divided by 2?
If you did the 8, what do you mean?
If we did 8, like if we were doing the division for the pi, would we do
So pi, we're going way off track here. I think you're confused about how we find pi. Pi, and you don't need to write this down, is actually the division of a circle's circumference divided by its diameter. So Ava, what we would actually do, if we could measure perfectly, take a circle, measure it around, that's your circumference. Circum means around. To circumnavigate something, you got to go around it.
Yeah.
Circumference, the E and C just means distance. Then distance across. Do that division, and you'll never find an end. You'll be doing it forever. If your numbers are accurate, you'll be doing it forever. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. In your notes, right, terminating decimals. We're going to go purple. Feeling purple right now. And I got purple in my bow tie today. Gotta go purple. Alright, so what does the Terminator do to people? I'm waiting to hear the word I'm looking for.
eliminate.
What does it mean to terminate something? Not eliminate. He stops it, right? To terminate. So, for some of you, I need you to terminate certain behaviors that aren't appropriate for 7th grade. To terminate means to stop, right? To end something. So, 0.125, and for you that want to number this, we are now on number 43, which you really should be keeping numbering in your notes. And this is A. Does this have any repetition marks on it? A repetend above or an ellipse out to the side? So this decimal ends. Now, Eva, can you properly read this decimal for me? And 0.125 is not proper. That is a way we can read it, but it's not proper. Close. Tenths, hundredths, thousands, right? So when we read a decimal properly, it actually tells me the fraction. It's 125 thousandths. Now we will, you don't need to do this right now, some of you are really good at this, we will then, and we're not going to do it right now, look at how we can reduce this by dividing on top and dividing on bottom. Anyone see something real easy that both numbers could be divided by? 5, right? So if we wanted to start reducing, we could divide by 5. You don't have to write this. If you want to, you can. What's 125 divided by 5?
How do you, what? 9? Wait, what is that? 1,000 be 5? No. Where am I going with this?
How many 5s are in 1,000?
200.
Take off 2 of the zeros. 10 divided by 5. 2, right? Then put the zeros back on. So, try B. See if your group can remember the rule that helps us know the fraction for B. Is B terminating? No, B is not a terminating decimal. If it's repeating one number, what goes on the bottom? That's what you should think. We're repeating one number, what goes on the bottom? So, we up here, or on the previous page, here we're repeating one number, right? And that was that number over the same rule will help us figure out the fraction that matches that. Sky, you got this for me? Yeah, we're back to Labiba. Labiba, take a guess. What do we think might go on the bottom to repeat one?
I thought it was Sid and she summoned him.
No, it was gravity and airflow. What should go on the bottom? Any idea? I'll pass you. It's okay. Madison. Last card we'll call. Where's Madison at? Probably out today. Yeah, Madison's sick. So I can't. 1, where's your name tenths? 2, I don't know you guys yet. I'm sorry. I slowly got the photo thing printed because we were missing one picture. Madison, do you know what goes on the bottom there? I'll give you guys the hint. 6 goes on the top. Aiden, you raised your hand. Do you know what goes on the bottom? Like a minute ago. I was calling cards, but somebody over there, I thought it was you.
I raised my hand. It's 9.
9.
Wow.
Guys. Hey, give me your eyes and close your mouth for a moment, please. If I had given you guys 7 over 9, like 10, 15 minutes ago, you would have all been like, yeah, it repeats 7, it does this. So why, when we turn the rule around and give you the repeating decimal, were you all like, you've never seen it before?
I saw it before.
You need to be able to take math rules and work them either direction. Right? I forget if we've talked about this yet or not, but there's no such thing as division. It's just multiplying the wrong direction. Like, there's no such thing as division, for real. And we showed you guys the video that there's no such thing as subtraction. It's just addition the wrong way. You're adding with a negative. So, be able to reverse your rules. Write down 5 over 6, please. You have a long one here. Yes. 5 over 6. Now I'm going to give you a sweet strategy. We don't know this one. You should not know this. 5, 6 is tough. We don't know this. So, guys, I don't know if I'm going to have to like strategically make groups I'm having to shush this class way more than I've ever had to do with a morning math 7 class. Normally we show up in the morning, we're like, it's school, like, I gotta be here, but okay, I'm gonna learn. When I'm in class, I only talk when it's necessary. Like, when I'm supposed to be writing something down, I don't need to be talking at the same time as writing something down. Most of you can't do that well doing that. Sorry, multitasking is a skill that you build. We gotta get it together, guys. So I'm really, like, there's some of your classmates in here that are super frustrated with how much time we're wasting. We could have been done with the lesson, you could be doing, like, tomorrow's homework. You'd be getting ahead in the homework. I only want to be up here as long as I need to, and then I want to let you guys work and do your practice so you don't take it home. But we're wasting a ton of time with you guys talking between when I'm writing or when I'm, like, chill. I know you guys took a test this morning, but come on, it's class. We don't know 5/6. Like, we don't know that yet. But do we know 1/6?
Yes.
Yeah. Could I then maybe use a strategy where I say this is 1/6, and did we talk about 4/6?
Oh yeah.
That was the 2/3, right? We had that. That's up in our notes. You should have it written down. Will 1/6 plus 4 more 6 give me 5/6? So to figure out things we don't know, break it down to stuff we do know. What was 1/6? Who remembers that decimal? Ava?
0.1666666.
Yeah, and only the 6 repeats. What was 4/6? You should have it written down in your notes. Yeah. Well, yeah, it reduced down to 2/3. But what was 2/3 decimal? Should be in your notes. Because it turns out to be 6/9. 4/6 is 2/3, which is 6/9. All of this we had in our notes, guys. You should just be able to look up there. I could figure this out by the stuff I do know. Now we're not going to do this addition because we're running out of time. 4, like D, 4, obviously, is that repeating or terminating? Terminating. So how do we write 4 as a decimal? Because that doesn't have a decimal. 4.0. Be careful, if you just said 0.4, you fell in the trap. E is 2/5. Now this is where we really start to use some strategies that save you time going to get a calculator. Sky, do you know where I'm heading? What other fraction will be more useful than 2/5? That is the same as 2/5. She knew right where I was going. That first decimal place, it's the tenths place, right? So in order to convert or just like take a fraction and make it a decimal, we need it to either be over 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, a 1 with some zeros, right? That's what our denominator needs to be. How do I get here? What do I do? Anybody? Times 2, right? So I do the same on top, times 2. If you can make the denominator a 10, a 100, a 1,000, anything like that, it's real easy. This just becomes 4 tenths. It's okay. Some of this is just like we're going to expose you to a lot of things, and it'll take some time to sink in, but that's fine. And the last thing we're going to talk about is our portions web, not proportions web. Portions web. Your math notes box is real great right here, but also kind of confusing. So we're going to talk about this real fast, but I only have 2 minutes, so I really need your attention, please. If we were going to represent the portion 2/3, there are 2 different ways to do this. I'm going to make your life easy. Don't draw all those arrows. Now, if you've already done your homework, that's fine. All you really need to draw is a triangle. The top has the fraction that we start with, if we're given a fraction. Now, I might need to rewrite that. 2/3 earlier, we turned into something ninths. How many ninths?
4.
Ooh, not 4. 6 times 3, right? Times 3 times 3.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So what's my decimal representation? Joey? 0.6 repeating. Now, if you don't know how to do this conversion, I'm about to make your life uber easier. To go from decimal to percent, just bump your decimal to the place, or to the right 2 places. So now it's 66.6666 repeating forever. And then in the middle, we draw a picture. You got 2 options for your picture. You might have more than 2 options. I'm going to show you both. If I have 3 of something, 2 have a certain characteristic. Or, and your math notes box shows this, if I have 1 of something broken up into thirds, 2 of them are shaded. Yes, it does kind of look like a robot. On that bombshell, that is the end of class 4. Have a wonderful day, guys. To my people sick at home, get healthy. Oh, gravity. Hey, nada. Which in Spanish means you're welcome.
Oh, wow.